Hello stampers, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back for another Hero Arts video. In this one, which is a part of the color layering series, we're taking a closer look at the color layering HeroScape's Tulip Field stamp set. Join me as I play around with this stamp set and show you how to make colorful greeting cards. Now, if you aren't familiar with these stamps, there are 3 sets in this line at the moment: the lavender field, the tulip field, this is the one I'm using today, and the sunflower field. All are larger 6x8 clear stamps that have a beautiful layering to create a blooming field of either lavender, tulips, or sunflowers. I was blown away by these stamps and by how easy it was to use them to make absolutely stunning cards. And if you like to create little scenes for your projects, these stamps are for you. And I suggest that you get all 3 sets because then you'll be able to mix and match the little accents from the sets. And the accents include little houses and trees and butterflies. There's a fence in one of the sets, several different shape and size clouds, everything. There are coordinating dies available for these, and that makes cutting all of these little pieces a piece of cake and a very enjoyable process. And you'll see that for my cards today, I'm also using the little accessories, little accents from one of the other sets. Okay, I'm using the Tulip Field stamp set today, and this is what the set looks like. On the back of the packaging, you have instructions that tell you how to use it, how to stamp these layers to have gorgeous results on your cards. It's very easy to use, and all you need is 4 colors of ink. 2 colors for the grass, a lighter and a darker color, and 2 colors for the flowers, a lighter and a darker color. Let's do some stamping. I'm using my Misty stamping tool, and I do suggest that you use a Misty or a similar stamp positioner to make it easier to align and stamp these images. And I'm going to stamp several blooming tulip fields, all in different ink colors, to make 3 cards. It's easy to stamp multiple images when using these stamps. I'm starting with the bottom layer, which is this solid grass layer. This is to be stamped in light green ink. Now, I like to place and position my stamps up against the corner of my Misty tool. That makes it easier to align them, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. I'm using moss ink for this layer, and will later use Forever Green to stamp the detail grass layer. Like I mentioned, I'm stamping several of these images at once so that I have more than one field for my cards. To position the detail grass layer, I'm placing it over my stamped image and up against the corner of my Misty tool. So I'm not really eyeballing anything. These stamps fall in place nicely. So just use the corner of your Misty to align them. And then I'm stamping the detail grass layer in Forever Green ink. And look how gorgeous this stamps. So beautiful, and most importantly, so very easy. Time to stamp the flowers. I'm going to use several colors here to have purple, yellow, and pink tulips on my cards. The tulip layer, again, is very easy to align, although you don't want to place it up against the corner of your Misty. Just eyeball the flower placement. I'm first using Butterbar ink, a very pretty yellow, to stamp the base flower layer for my first panel. For the second panel, I'm using Bubblegum ink, a pretty soft pink color, and you can see how easily and effortlessly these flowers fill in the gaps in the grass. I'm telling you, this is such a clever and easy to use stamp set. I'm having loads of fun stamping all of these floral fields. I'm using purple for the third panel and stamping the base flower layer using an orchid color to have purple tulips on my card. With the base layers stamped, it's time to stamp the flower detail layer. Here, again, the layer is easy to align, although you don't want to place it up against the corner of your Misty. Just eyeball the placement. I'm using caramel ink for the yellow flowers, and it adds that perfect interest to my yellow tulips. For the pink layer, I'm using crimson ink color, and that goes perfectly well with the bubblegum base layer. And finally, for the purple tulips, I'm using grape juice color, and once again, I have perfect little tulips for my card. All of the panels are ready, and it's time to stamp a few additional pieces for our projects and then assemble our cards. As I mentioned, there are many additional images in these stamp sets that are designed to help you build scenes for your cards. I've already stamped several trees in Forever Green ink, several windmills in wet cement and soft brown ink, and now I'm stamping hot air balloons in various ombre ink pad colors. You can use solid ink colors, but I think the ombre ink pads work much better for the hot air balloon images. Here's a look at all of the images that I had stamped for my cards. I also stamped a little house image from the HeroScape's lavender set. I'm going to use coordinating dies to cut all of these images out in my die cutting machine. There's even a die to cut out the field itself, which is very handy, as this way you can easily layer the blooming field over an ink blended or a die cut background, for example. With all of my images cut out, I trimmed the blooming fields down slightly to measure 4 inches wide, and I used my paper trimmer to do that. I also had a little bit of white at the bottom, so I cut that off as well. I added a generous layer of foam adhesive tape to the back of each of the blooming fields and set them aside. I've already planned a layout for all of my cards, and you can see that on the screen now. Very easy and very fun to do. Before I adhere anything down onto the background, I need to make a sky for my cards. For this, I'm using a panel of mist cardstock. This is cut to 4 by 5¼ inches, and I'm going to blend white pigment ink, this is Hero Art's Unicorn White, over the background to mimic clouds. I'm blending the white ink where the blooming field ends to make it look like the horizon is very cloudy, and I'm also adding some faint clouds to the top of the panel to soften it up a little bit. With the ink blending done, I can go ahead and stamp sentiments. I'm using sentiments that come with a Tulip field stamp set, and I'm stamping them in black ink directly onto the panel, somewhat in the center. The sentiments for my cards read, "If flowers were hugs, I would send you 1,000. Wishing you fields of joy, and you make my heart soar." All that is left to do now is assemble. I'm using a mix of foam adhesive and glue to adhere all of the little die cuts down onto the panel. I'm adding a windmill, a tree, a little house, some hot air balloon die cuts, and also die cut clouds to all of my cards. I decided not to stamp the clouds. There is a stamp that will allow you to do that, but I decided to die cut the clouds using coordinating dies instead. I used the die from this set and also a die from the Lavender Fields set to have 2 size clouds on my cards. With my panels done, I adhered them onto A2 white side-folding card bases. Here's a look at all 3 cards I have for you today, created using the new Hero Arts HeroScape's Tulip Field stamp set. I hope this video has given you some stamping ideas to try with your color layering stamp sets from Hero Arts. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.